The Sober Pod is proudly sponsored by Axioms Health, the first of its kind where treatment from drug and alcohol addiction is brought to you in your home. It's a full customizable treatment plan that includes medical care, individual counseling, family therapy, acupuncture, and peer support recovery, to name a few. For more information, visit us at axiomshealth.com. And on to the show. I don't know if the turkey was Asian or it was Asianly prepared.
Imported.
Imported straight from Asia.
It's a duck. Just Peking duck.
The Sober Pod. The Sober Pod. The Sober Pod. The Sober Pod. Call your sponsor. Call your brother. Call your mother. Show starting in 4, 3, 2, 1.
Woo! Welcome to the Sober Pod.
Good evening.
Yeah. There it is.
Welcome to the Sober Pod, everybody. I'm just going to introduce the podcast while you guys do what you do.
Do it.
The Sober Pod is an all recovery podcast. We're not affiliated with any program, any group. We are our own thing. We are still growing and trying to figure out our rhythm and what this is about, but we have really taken to this weekly enjoyment of bringing in a guest and having a theme about something in recovery. And
We are your hosts.
yes,
Chris.
Sam.
And Devin.
Yep.
And we have a special guest with us this
Super
evening. Super special guest.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And we're so happy to bring him here.
Honored, in fact.
Oh, it's falling.
Say your name in it right before it falls again.
Hey, I'm Clyde.
Hey!
Clyde. There he
You
is.
can call me Uncle Clyde.
We have an email for you guys to write us and share your thoughts and share your ideas and talk to us about celebrations coming up or your stories even. Please email us at thesoberpod@gmail.com. We do check it on the daily. And we'd love to give you a shout out if you're celebrating or not celebrating. And yeah, if you just have anything to say, we'd love to bring your name out in the air and the airs and talk about it.
Or if you're interested in coming on as a guest.
Yeah.
I thought about that too. Wouldn't that be cool? You know, somebody writing, like, there's this podcast for a band I love, and I really wanted to be on their show. You know, like, I listened to the first episode that they had, and the first thought was like, I'd love to tell those guys how I got into that band. You know, like, I'd want to be a guest on the show. So it does happen.
Yeah.
And so I thought about it. Like, I mean, it's funny Chris brings it up, but I thought about it too. That would be cool. Somebody we don't know that has a
Guys just fly in.
has a subject they want to talk about.
Dulles Airport's right down the street.
Yeah.
It's one exit from us.
We don't have the per diem to give.
Yeah, no.
but,
Be local. Be local.
well, or if you have your own funds.
Yeah, please.
Your own endowment.
We won't reimburse you, but we'll reimburse you with, hospitality and love.
A lot of love.
Yeah,
It's worth something, right?
definitely.
Oh, man.
Amazing. So what'll it be, boys?
Well, I want to really quick talk about, I was thinking about this on the ride here when, I don't know, Chris, you might agree. When you think of Clyde, do you think of a certain thing when it comes to recovery? When you think of Clyde?
Like a word?
No, not a word, but like...
The word is mystery.
The word is... Oh, I was about to say your last name. It's not going to happen.
When I think of Clyde's recovery, I think one of the things that stands out is meditation. Because I've heard you talk about, Clyde, I've heard you talk about meditation and sort of that present moment and sort of getting back in touch with that on a constant, constantly trying to get back to the present. And I feel like a lot of our conversations have always sort of come back to that. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the things.
Yeah. That would ring true for me too. I think of like, I don't know if there's a better way of saying like long-term, like consistency, I think. For Clyde, like it's been, he's one of those guys where if I was to go to a meeting and see him outside, I know that it's going to be a meeting. It's going to be a meeting.
Yeah.
It's going to be it might not be the best meeting, not be even a great meeting, but knowing that, and this is serious because I've known Clyde since I was a kid trying to get sober, and it's like what's the word I'm looking for? There's foundation there, there's knowledge there, so you're going to get something out of this. Yeah. For me, and I met you when I was, oh my gosh, I don't know how many years I had. I was thinking about it, that you had a bunch of years, and I was trying to get sober in my early 20s. And you sort of took me under your wing for a little. That was so great to think about those days, Never judged me for not being ready. Mm-hmm. You never talked down to me. You're always sort of there, present, as Chris said. And we've talked about it a few times at this podcast. It really is not what you say to people. It's like how you make them feel through and through. And that's the stuff that people remember, I think, in recovery for the most part. I'm generalizing, but I think it's true. Mm-hmm. I think it's worth generalizing, and stereotyping.
How much sobriety do you have, Mr. Clyde?
It's 35 years.
Wow.
Oh, my God.
As of recently.
Dang.
What
Which
Roman
means
numeral?
I'm old as shit.
I'm 35. What Roman numerals are those?
That's triple XV.
Wow.
Concise.
Yeah.
Concise lettering.
Clyde, do you remember your first meeting?
I remember that I went.
Yeah.
I remember what I did that night. I don't remember who the speaker was. The first meeting was this meeting locally, Saturday Night Live.
Oh yeah.
It was a completely different location, like a different county even at that point. But it was like the only young people speakers meeting in the area, and we went. And then my buddy who took me to the meeting, I asked him to be my sponsor or whatever. He said no because we used to drink together and stuff. And anyhow, we went to this club, the Alano Club, and there was a dance, which was socially, talking about social anxiety. Day one, I'm at an AA dance, terrified,
Nightmare.
and then we went and got subs at Mario's on Wilson Boulevard, which it was the first time I had been to Mario, so that's like a holy sight to me now. And then we went skinny dipping in Lake Barcroft.
That was your first day?
And got caught by the cops.
Wow.
And they made us put our clothes. There's one girl there. She had her clothes on, of course. There's like 5 or 6 guys naked. The cops came and made us put our clothes on.
First meeting material.
Gave the girl a ride home.
Yeah, and this is day one. And then these dudes dropped me off at my house at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And I don't want to get out of the car because, earlier that day, I'm thinking my life is over and I'm never going to have fun again. And then these guys are dropping me off at 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't even want to get out of the car because I had so much fun. I think it was all a dream. This is never going to happen again if I get out of this car type thing.
Wow.
So I mean that in some ways that's kind of that buzz that I was chasing, like after that. So I was really fortunate.
Any of those guys still around?
Like all of them.
Wow.
Actually, the guy who I called and begged to take me to a meeting that night, he may or may not still be sober. I don't know. He doesn't. He's not involved, right? I know I've seen his wife with a bottle of wine in her ads for her business or whatever that she does. I don't know. But a lot of those guys are. Yeah. One of those guys was like my first sponsor. One of them is now a lawyer. One of them is Rusty. I don't think he was at the lake, but I mean, it was.
That's something.
It was really awesome. Yeah.
How old were you?
I was 19.
And so after that day, you stayed sober?
Yeah, from that day I stayed sober. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, that wasn't my very first. That wasn't my very first meeting. That was my first meeting this time sober.
Okay.
Right.
Oh, okay.
My very first meeting, I was 15, and I asked the same guy. The same guy took me to that meeting. Took me to my first meeting this time, and I rode out there with John, my roommate, the guy who lives with me now, and this girl who I would the guy who I asked, and this other girl would be in this band that I joined months later. Susan and Chris were in the band, and I'm pretty sure John rode with us too.
Did you know this stuff? Clyde was in the band playing?
I have no idea.
I played bass. I played at a West Side Club dance, like 6 months sober.
Sick.
Yeah.
What kind of bass?
I've got a Fender P and a Gibson Ripper.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, they're both pretty vintage.
Yeah.
Hot shit. They're worth more than I paid for them, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. God,
awesome.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's interesting that those guys had stayed sober. Like, and I think I know 3 or 4 of the guys that you're talking about.
Probably, yeah.
Pretty well. And God, man, it's really, it's very unique that would happen. Because I remember when I met you guys, it was in Alexandria. It was, the Seminary Road area where I lived. I used to walk up the tubes.
Right.
And it was just fun. Like, none of those meetings to me felt serious in the sense, but I was clueless on what serious meant anyway. I was clueless on if somebody was to quote a book, I wouldn't know that you were quoting the big book. So, I've come to that realization. But the energy of the meetings and the way that it was amongst the young people there, it was just so light and non-serious, non-threatening. And if you were ready, you stayed and you had fun. And if you weren't ready, like me, you'd leave. And you didn't feel judged either way, but it's unique. It's unique. And that's an old school group that you guys have. Do you see that quite often still?
Well, I think there were elements that were present then that I see also, like with you guys, right? There's like this, it's enthusiasm is what it is, and a commitment to one another. Like if you get a bunch of guys that connect through whatever reason, because of a meeting, because they all went through rehab together, because they all have the same sponsor or what, and they like become a clique or whatever, but they're like, do you know where Joey is? I don't know. I didn't talk to him. Mark, you talked to him? Yeah, I talked to him. Okay, well, let's go get him. And, like this whole thing, like we're all going to be running buddies.
Yep.
Then that just like turns into success.
Yeah.
It's crucial.
So true.
It's definitely how it was with us. Yeah, for sure.
And it can become synergistic too. Like if you're like, if this core group of people is like, man, we're saving lives. Let's go get some dudes. Let's go to the freaking treatment center where we came out of and pluck some dudes out of there, and it just can grow like
it's
that.
contagious.
It's contagious like that.
Absolutely
Enthusiasm is contagious.
There's something that happens, and you wish that you knew how to bottle it so you can like help people to start getting that. Because my home group we started like that because of that same effect. But then you see another group of guys coming like a couple years after, and like it's starting with them. And then like now the group is like bigger because this other group is coming that has sort of caught that contagious, sort of irresistible. There's something irresistible about that when a group
it's called not dying.
Well, yeah, but not just that. Like you talked about all these things you were doing. You didn't even want to get out of the car. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I've had that feeling so many times too.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing, what's crazy about that is like that night, there was this stark contrast for me because I didn't have really any money or job. I didn't drive. I was going to be dependent on rides. If I was going to get anywhere, I was going to have to call somebody and ask. I was like, oh, I'm sorry. And they're like, don't worry about it. And I'm like, what are you talking about, man? Like, they're like, just do it for somebody else, And I'm like, cool. And they're like, we'll pick you up tomorrow. Don't worry about it. And I was just like, at once, I was like melted, right? Like, oh my God, really? Like, you know, I was about to cry because the last time my idiot friends dropped me off, they were kicking me out of the car, literally like kicking with boots to kick me out of the back seat.
Get the fuck out.
Get the fuck out. You don't got any money. You
Right.
don't got any dope. Certainly not putting out.
Yeah.
You're worthless. Get the fuck out. Like, excuse my French. I don't know if we cuss on this podcast.
We can, yeah.
But
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, and that was the time before.
Yeah.
Like my boys dropped me off. You know what I'm saying? And then like basically these strangers dropping me off.
So
You know.
cool, yeah.
Telling you they're going to do it all over again the next
like,
day.
Yeah, exactly. For nothing.
Right.
Just do it for somebody else.
Yeah, I was suspicious about that when I came in. Very suspicious. Like,
It was
what do
very
you want
awkward.
from me, man?
Yeah, yeah.
What is this all about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys can't just be
Yeah.
So what
doing
did,
this for...
what did you think it was? Like, what was your suspicion, Devin?
Dude, I don't know.
Sex cult.
I seriously, I had no clue.
Yeah, I can't lie that sort of snuck into my mind when I first entered the fellowship. Like,
I thought all sorts of things. I definitely
Yeah.
thought cult for sure.
definitely like some
like,
inner
there's some
like,
sort of-
homophobia came out. Like when another guy like be like, "Oh yeah, call me. Here's my number. Like hit me up." You know,
Definitely.
I'm like, "What do you want from me?"
And
man?"
tell me like everything that's bothering you. It's like, what?
Right.
Yeah. I definitely asked this one dude for my number. He's like, I'll give you my number, but don't call me. He had like turned that thing on me, you know? Like he was really wigged out.
Well, I mean, I eventually got over it. Like, I remember one time my sponsor was going to give me a ride to, I didn't have any money. He was like, we're all going out to eat at this buffet spot after the meeting. You should come. And I was like, okay. And he had driven his motorcycle to the meeting. And I was like, hey, can I ride on your motorcycle to the buffet spot? And he's like, sure. And so I'm sitting there straddling him on the back seat. As we're going down the road, he's like, you can hold on to the strap behind you, you know. I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. As we're driving down the road, I just start, and I start putting my hands around his waist. He can't do anything because he's got to drive. And then I slowly move my hands up towards his chest and just start squeezing. And he's just like, trying to, I can hear him like muffles through his helmet, but like, he's like, don't ever do that again. We get to a stoplight. I just thought it was the funniest thing because he was helpless. He had to drive. So I got over it, I guess.
You guys are making me think like maybe I need to be more mindful to these new guys that go up and just like, hey, here's my number. Make sure you call me tomorrow. I'll do anything for you.
Jeez.
I never say I'll do anything for you. That's
Yeah, I've never said that.
No, but
I'll literally do anything.
I'll do anything for you. But
Wait,
so
like,
what was
nudge,
it?
Nudge?
Was there any? Was there like? I mean, like on your part, you were young. You were just probably like getting laid. You know, aren't friends doing that. Like, was there work right away? Like, or did you treat it like a high school class when you first came in?
I would see now. I was really toxic, right? Like I had been a year earlier. I had been in treatment, and had gone back out for 6 months, and then I had been sober 6 months. You could call it sober. Like I was in rehab. Then I was like in jail for 2 months, like taking antipsychotics, and then a month out of there, I'm still taking antipsychotics. That started in June when I went to treatment. December-ish, I was taken off the antipsychotics and started smoking pot again. So then 6 months later, I'm surrendering because pot is killing me, right? Mm-hmm. I want to die every day. And I'm just like, every time I get high, I'm thinking maybe those people in AA were right, you know? But it dawned on me, I didn't know. Because I listened, I understood English. I would be in the meeting for like the hour or whatever. but I literally had no idea what you guys were talking about.
Yeah.
After like 6 months.
Yeah.
Still.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because I was like out of my mind, and with the antipsychotics, I really couldn't have a conversation to delve into or whatever. I certainly wasn't going to call anybody because I would just be like, "Hi,
That's it.
it's Clyde," and then but like pretty much anything else, I only had my old conversations to come up with because I couldn't any creative ideas. The medication would just they would go in one side of my mind and out the other.
Zombie mode.
It was all about impulse control. Those meds were to keep me from hurting someone, basically, because they were really afraid of me because I threatened somebody in a community meeting when I was in treatment. But so when I came in again a year later, I was basically still kind of like in secondary withdrawal in a way, like I was super socially awkward. Like people talk about social anxiety today. They don't know what social anxiety is compared to where I was at. I mean, I was wild boy, like trying to like put on human clothes and integrate into society. So it was a while before I was getting laid or whatever. Like my sponsor said, "You're too sick to work the steps. Learn how to stay sober and have fun." So that's what I did. Like anybody said to do anything for or with AA, I said yes.
Yeah.
And that was my program for a while, you know. And I would talk about what was going on with me, like share like the blathering new guy or whatever. But I didn't. Then I got into the 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 thing, and I lasted about 6 months, and I ended up getting laid or whatever. But then I locked that down for like 7 years because what I caught on to in that interim when I wasn't screwing around was that there were people who were new who would get into relationships and get upset and lose the relationship and get drunk. That seemed to be the hazard.
Yeah.
With that thing to me. And there was a lot of people who were like, they would jump sack to sack to sack to sack to try and avoid that. Yeah. So they would just but eventually they would run out of people to sleep with. Right. So they would leave AA. Right. You know what I mean? So I call that fucking your way out of AA, But
it's a good topic for another day.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was just, I felt like I had a crazy girlfriend and I was totally out of my mind. And why should we change that?
Yeah.
Like, I know you're crazy. I'm crazy. We don't know what we're doing. Let's see what happens. And that continued on for close to 7 years. Mm-hmm. So,
there was a meeting. I was at a meeting last night. It was super interesting that you mention it again tonight because one of the guys that I look up to in that meeting, like there was a bunch of newcomers talking about like, yeah, man, I work the steps, coming in here, work them immediately. And that's just the way to do it, right? Like they were talking about their experience, but they were also like sort of holding the banner, right? So to speak, like they were just adamant, right? And they didn't have time. And then this guy with time, he started talking about, I needed to not kill somebody when I came in.
That's right.
My sponsor needed to make sure I did not kill somebody for the first 6 months. That was my initiation to AA. And it just occurred to me, like, this is why this thing in recovery, and whether it's AA or NA or whatever program, it's kind of cool that it's not cookie cutter. Like, that was your experience. And you probably won't recommend it to anybody either. You know what I mean? Like, it depends.
It depends.
Right. It depends.
If you are dealing with internal stimuli that are not real, right? If you're talking about, Colonel Sanders is running your life because you need to have the chicken, but not the crispy, but the special sauce. Just talking about stuff that is completely divorced from reality as if it's real. Like, I ran into a girl who I knew from high school. She came in after I was sober for a couple years. And she's talking about she's going to go on tour with Conway Twitty and this and that and blah, blah, blah. not happening.
Right.
Because the girl's out to lunch. She's out to lunch like I was out to lunch. You know what I mean? She's just talking about stuff that's not real. That person can't do the 12 steps. They're incapable. They're the constitutionally incapable.
Right.
Right?
Of being honest with themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Now, they might be able to sit still long enough to not drink or drug. They might be able to say, yes, I'm an alcoholic. I definitely can't drink safely. You know? But that person's in a bad way. Like, because as soon as it starts coming to higher power, their eyes get real big.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we're talking about supernatural, and they've got voices in their head.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah.
So that person's just got to hold on and learn how to not drink and have fun. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, they can go and be crazy and not do drugs and just stick with these people. But there's a place for white knuckle. You know what I mean? There's definitely a place for white knuckle. If that's the only state of mind that you can grasp, hang on, baby.
Yeah. Yeah.
Knuckling is required. That's what I was told.
What's that?
I was told white knuckling is required. At least when I was getting sober, talking to people, they were like, "Yeah, dude, it's gonna."
Yeah, but I mean, don't you know now, like paranoid schizophrenics that are in the rooms with like multiple years?
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
I mean,
and I know
happen.
sponsors that sponsored them that are beating their head with a baseball bat going, where did I go wrong? You know, guys that really did, I mean, with all their heart, tried to help these mentally ill people, and they couldn't. And to me, it's very obvious. I mean, I work in the field. I see it all the time. I understand it. I can't tell you I know what the exact approach is. All I can tell you is I'm glad it's not cookie cutter. And sometimes I feel like our only job as people in recovery and as people that have been through work, whatever that looks like, is to sometimes take these people to professional help. I mean, there was a guy I was helping that got along with everybody I was hanging out with, and he was just rapping with everybody and just really well liked. But there was something going on with him. And I could start seeing it, I could start feeling it, and there was some delusions going on. And I started thinking, like, man, my job at this point is to maybe hook him up with some professional help. Maybe that's why he met me. And I tried. And he didn't stick around long, but I felt in my heart that was my thing then at that point. You know what I mean? So sometimes it's not just to take them through the work that you've taken them through. Sometimes it's to get them to another avenue. Right. You know, there's different avenues, and you know.
Well, and it's impossible to know too, like how much of that is the drugs and how much of that is just biology. You know,
Right.
And how much what neuroplasticity may heal, you know, or what it may not. Because the doctors told me that I was psychotic, that I had permanent brain damage, that I would never have the gray matter, right? I would not have a brain that was capable of adding up the principles of recovery, and that I was going to die. That's what they said. These are medical professionals. This isn't some guy. I'm like, I was terrified.
I bet.
And fit to prove them wrong, you know?
Yeah.
And hope that they do have miracles in 12-step recovery, which apparently they do. So, because here I am, you know. But it's hard to know. It's hard to know they were wrong,
Right.
you know. So to me, I mean, the way I carry that is like, if there's somebody that's got issues like that, I don't freak out. I'm just like, okay.
Yeah.
And you're talking. You took your tinfoil off, and now the Martians are talking to you again. Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
It's cool. Well,
Yeah.
you know, I don't know too much about that, but I know, you know, if you don't take a drink, you won't get drunk, type deal. You know,
Right.
like,
And if
And
you
just-
want some help to stay sober, I can try to help.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And if you want help with that other stuff, I know people.
Yeah, I know a guy who knows a guy.
Exactly.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Hey, this is off the top. What is the biggest lie that you've told yourself in the beginning that Well, okay. No, let me rephrase. I always have to rephrase things. You know what I'm about to ask, Clyde. What is the thing that you believed when you first got sober that you really don't believe right now, that it was a lie? That you just rode for the longest time, and now you're like, you know what, that's not even true. Because you have so much time.
Like about recovery, like
or about yourself, yeah. Or about yourself.
That I can't anything. Like a negative belief that I cannot do this or that. I cannot aspire, that I cannot aspire to the highest high. Like that I could not follow the craziest dream that I wanted. That's the biggest lie that I told in the beginning, right? Like, and it's not to say that any of these things are ideal, but like I just like discounted. I can never be a lawyer. I can never be in the military because I won't achieve rank because I dropped acid or whatever. They'll find out and I won't get a security clearance, or I can't be a doctor. I can't, I probably can't even go to college. I can't, whatever. And it goes further than just like career aspirations, like, oh, I couldn't run a business, or I can't, just like anything, like I can't, like, or anything, or like, I can't be in a band because like I couldn't play, right?
Right. Yeah.
And then suddenly I'm in a band, But I mean, it depends. It's tough. Like somebody asked me the other day. They said because they were looking at somebody who they feel like has long-term recovery, but really, to their way of thinking, hasn't changed. Like probably since the day they came in, and I said, "What is that, Clyde? How does that happen?" And I mean, all I could think of is just like, there's something called arrested development, right? I mean, it's a phrase. I've heard that phrase, right? What does that mean? But I mean, I think really it's that somebody has a crystallized idea about who they are, or how it is, or how life is, or how the game is played. And it's just an idea, but they take it as the limit of reality.
Right.
And they never question it. But the thing is, I believe we all do that.
Absolutely.
Every human being does that. It's just a matter of degree.
And so that was the belief, was that you couldn't do certain things, and you're saying that now you're looking at it as it's a lie.
Yeah, it's a lie. I mean, at this point, I feel like, I'm not going to be a PhD in advanced mathematics at this point in my life. I mean, that ship has sailed. There's biological reasons why people who are geniuses in math do their best work before they're 30. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, as general rule of thumb. I think Einstein's basic stuff that he did, that he carried him through later in life, he did before he was 30. Like, he laid those foundations early on. But, which is not to say, like, I could go back to school and study math. I'm just not going to be Einstein, right?
Yeah, within reality, the achievements that you
Right.
Yeah.
My rule is I can do anything as long as I like where I'm putting my feet right now. That's something I learned by setting off in various directions towards goals, and then like getting like halfway there and being like, I don't really dig this.
Right.
And really, the walk up to this point, I didn't really dig that much either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is not to say that you have to like everything, but it really helps if you enjoy the journey.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
It's empowering when you know, like, you don't have to be limited to what you think you are, what you're capable of, and step out into those uncomfortable things with the knowledge, knowing that, like, hey, I can, like, day at a time type thing, chip away at this goal or chip away at this thing, and look back on it a year later and be like, wow, look how I'm at a different place now. You know what I mean?
Well, Devin, I remember with you, the day that you picked up a MIDI, whatever it was, like a MIDI controller and a keyboard, and you plugged it in the back of your new Mac at the House and Falls Church, and we're not talking 10, 15 years ago. We're talking like a few years ago, and you sort of like, I was there the day that you, I think, conceptualized what you wanted to become, which was an engineer slash, music producer, and it it happened. It was really cool, to see that, like from initiation to now, and that's, I think, what Clyde is talking about. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Do you think of yourself as that, like someone who?
I can totally relate to that. I remember being like 18, being like I'm driving down to Beach Week, to go get loaded with your buddies for the week, and just like telling people in the car on the way down, like, man, if I could just produce a hip hop record or whatever the heck I thought at the time, like if I could just if I could do the drums for it and the bass and the guitar and, all the different instruments and put it all together and like to be on the soundboard. And I remember like telling my buddy about that. But then in my mind, once I went to college, I did a couple like entry level classes. I was like, this is so confusing. I don't understand any of this shit, and this isn't for me. I don't think I can, and then obviously I was just interested in other things and just didn't have, the focus or whatever. But yeah, totally thought even when I started, this time around, like, I got to move to Nashville to do that. I got to go to Atlanta to do that. I had leases signed in Atlanta. I had a lease signed in Nashville that I canceled.
That's right. I remember that.
I was going to move two different times. Yeah.
I remember when you almost moved to Atlanta. Yeah.
Yeah. I had an apartment already set up. I had a place to stay in that like 2.5, 3 years ago. I had people I was going to stay with in Nashville. I was already like setting up like job interviews with companies because I was like, I can only do it there. You know what I mean?
I'm so glad you're not on Love and Hip Hop Atlanta.
Well, he's on the next best thing, Love and Hip Hop Herndon.
Exactly. That's right.
Which reminds me, we're recording from Blue Room Production Studios, right? Yeah. Always got to put that in.
Yeah.
They're gracious enough to let us record here.
That's right.
Always grateful for being here.
Yeah.
It's a great studio.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's such a great, I don't know, because I used to, even with like the program, I just thought like I can only reach a certain level of sobriety or like wellness, or something. I don't know. I remember like 2 years into being sober, I'm still like, can't. I mean, even I guess still today, it's hard for me to formulate thoughts sometimes. But like, I thought like this is the best it's going to be. This is it. It's as good as my cognition is going to go, I guess. Like, drugs have depleted me down, my brain enough, and like you convince yourself. Like I had doctors tell me too, well, we don't know if you're going to get out of this state, if you're really going to actually ever heal fully and stuff like that. And so then you kind of can like internalize that and be like, and live it out and be like, well, I'm not going to be that, I guess. And
Well, and school was incredibly difficult for me. Like they were wrong about me not making it, but they weren't wrong about the state of my brain, right? Like, I was a smart kid. Like, I was in gifted classes before I started getting high, right? Mm-hmm. And, but when I got sober and tried to go to community college, man, I went to community college for 10 years without getting an associate's degree, like dropping out of class and withdrawing or not withdrawing. And like my GPA was really cruddy. And, about 8 years-ish, I got to where I could work a full-time job, take part-time classes and get straight A's in hard classes at night. And I was like, wow. And then I applied to school and ended up, getting an undergraduate degree in like 3 years in biology, right? Whereas before I had gotten an F in biology in high school and then got a D because I passed out in class smoking Love Boat.
Yeah. I'll show you what biology's really about, pal. Take a toke.
Where's that Bunsen burner?
Yeah.
Is that biology? That's chemistry. All right, anyways.
It was terrible. It's a funny story, but yeah. He passed me because I passed out in his class. Yeah. He thought I'd die if I had to take biology again.
Give you a D for passing out.
But yeah, now I got a degree in biology, right? So like, it took a while, but it's about not giving up, and it's hard. See, and I had this conversation spoke to a therapist today, and we were talking about male intimacy before the podcast here. But something that he and I discussed, man, is that intimacy takes a lot of different forms. Like, we think of it most as like one-on-one, or maybe like a sponsor conversation where you're like really digging into it. But there's also this intimacy with life where like you've committed yourself, and day to day you're showing up and living and giving and doing it, like wherever it is, in your home, in your relationship with your family, whatever. Like, through that day-to-day living, you've got a closeness by approximation, right? But then there's also, like, from what we were talking about, like this arrested development, that can come from fear of intimacy with oneself, right? So what we do through our process, where we're, turning it over to God, or doing this moral inventory and sharing and becoming entirely ready to let things go, make amends and all that, that's heavy, right? And for some of us with family of origin damage or whatever, like digging, or trauma, getting close to that, like having an aspiration, that can be really scary. Yeah. So maybe it's better not. Maybe just being sober is good enough. Yeah. Because I remember sitting on my mom's couch early on, like basically feeling like I was a vegetable. This is like in the interim, like while I was back out, but waiting to go to a meeting, like wait until mom could drive me to the meeting, and maybe sitting on mom's couch, watching cartoons, going to AA, just sitting and watching TV the next day. Yep. Maybe that's what being clean's going to be about, because I don't got any other potential. Mm-hmm. And if that's it, then maybe just her not having to bury her son, maybe that's the best I can do for her, like, ever.
I feel like I've gone through phases of my recovery where I sort of needed to just sort of chill out on like the self-exploration and like the sort of ethereal stuff that we can get into, and just sort of have a shallow recovery or shallow life for a minute.
Like, that's okay.
Yeah. Like sometimes I just need to binge out on Netflix on a stupid show, like 30 Rock, like that. Like let me just watch that for a minute.
30 Rock guy, huh?
Yeah, of course.
Awesome.
Yeah. Or just play video games or something.
That's deep at the same time, though. You know what I mean? Like, enjoy life.
Right.
It's fucking deep.
Right. Yeah. But, what also, when you were talking, something I thought of was, I think sometimes it's safer to be, like, cynical and sort of, like, not expect to get more out of life, right? And just sort of stay in that comfort bubble, no matter how painful it could be. Like, sometimes it's just safer to be in there because, like you said, intimacy with life, there's a lot of risk with that, whatever type of intimacy we're sort of exploring. And
that's a good point, Chris, because I go through, I think I'll be honest here for a minute, like, I can be doing that on a daily basis. And this life I know now is the life I want to live, I love the people around me first and foremost, and I'm exploring this thing about the world of the spirit and whatever, and I have an interest in that. So that's a full life for me, right? Like, already.
Life of sobriety.
Well, life of sobriety, life of being with you guys, life being with my friends, and life of exploring that life of the spirit. Like, that's a full-time schedule right there, right? So now I'm going to work, I'm doing that. But then I think what gets in the way for me, and that cynicism that Chris is talking about, is the insecurity. When that starts seeping in, which is somewhat what's happening right now, it's dangerous in the sense where that intimacy with life starts falling off for me, So it's really cool we're having this conversation, just as far as I'm concerned, because that's something I'd like to look at this point, because it comes at me sideways, right? You'd be having this intimate moment with your life, and all of a sudden it's like, I'm not really enjoying it right now, But for me, it comes as a shock. Like, oh my God, what's wrong with me? What's going on with me? We took this training today. I was in a training all day today, mindful meditation training. And you talked about neuroplasticity and all that. They covered all that. It was a really cool training, but we did so many meditation exercises that I started really feeling this insecurity and lack of lust for life coming up. And it's dangerous for a guy like me because I get cynical, I get negative, get super insecure. So, I don't know where I'm going with this, just to say that those are really cool points that you're covering. And what's cool about it is that this is someone who's experienced a life in sobriety for a pretty long time, talking about
The
those
ups
things.
and downs. Yeah, I mean, you've
100%.
gone through the ups and downs, and then the ups and downs, and then the ups and downs.
The ups and downs of the ups and the ups and downs of the downs.
Right, yeah.
100%, yeah. I mean, that's, you've been real with that shit. Like, you've never been one to say, life is peachy 24/7, but go ahead, Dev.
Well, I was just going to, I was trying to follow, as far as, the whole, getting cynical about, you said, what would you say, lust for life?
Mm-hmm.
Is that,
Yeah.
When I lack for lust of life, it starts becoming a dangerous road for
not
me.
being excited about waking up every day in the relationships you have and the life you lead on a daily basis, and kind of being, I mean, to the point of mindfulness and just being in the day.
I don't even want to be present
Right.
because I know present right now will have me look at the fact that I'm being negative. I'm being pretty shitty. There's nothing to be negative about. I don't want to be present. So it kind of snowballs for me. But I wouldn't have been able to put it into words if it wasn't.
Yeah.
Can I interject?
Why am I not why
am I not enjoying-
why am I wallowing in this negativity or something when I have all these others, I guess, the gratitude and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope.
I mean,
yeah.
I get it. Yeah, for sure.
Go ahead, Clyde.
So I'm not sure I understand completely, but you were talking about, you were going through this mindfulness training today, and you did a lot of exercises and this and that. And by the end of it, you were kind of at a loss.
At a realization that, and I might have overcomplicated it on you guys, and I apologize. I got to a point where I was negative and I didn't know what to do with it. And I don't even want to own the fact that I'm not just having a good time these days. There's some insecurities going on in my life.
Well, is that where you started when you started with the meditation? Because this is my experience, and I don't know how long you were spending at this, but I've been to day-long meditation retreats where it's little Dharma talk and a meditation, a Dharma talk and a meditation, a Dharma talk and a meditation. Mm-hmm. And there's so many meditations and so much stuff comes out that it will almost spiritually bankrupt you. I mean, it's not like
you're tired of shit.
And it wears you out. It's just oh shit!
I was breathing so hard by the time I got to the car tonight.
I leave that place and they've given you healthy snacks and stuff like that, and I'm I want pizza and a nap. I'm ready.
100%.
I want pizza and a nap. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I had leftover Chinese
and some damn Netflix. You know what I mean? Because it's just emptied out. It's kind of hard to be enthusiastic at that point. But,
because you sometimes start out meditate. We love, all of us talk about meditation in this room. Sometimes, at least for me, I don't know about you guys, I go into a meditation session, maybe in one of these Dharma talks, it might be an hour, hour and a half. Or more normally, I like a YouTube guided meditation. It's 15, 20 minutes. You go into it with a zest for it because you're oh, this is going to help me. I'm going to I couldn't imagine.
Going to get some.
Right, exactly. And then you do it and then it's good. But then doing it all day. Or our friend who just recently went to a 7-day silent meditation retreat.
Shout out to the Drewski.
Right.
Yeah, we got to bring him in to talk about that.
What an idiot.
Totally.
Right.
Talk about glutton for suffering.
That was part of his feedback, though. He was man,
it was.
We just meditated, man. We literally just meditated.
I didn't talk to anybody. Silent. Yeah. So pissed.
Yeah.
My meditation, people talk about People talk about, man, I meditated for 5 minutes and it seemed like forever. And then you come back and you're like, man, I'm up to 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Man, I'm up to 15 minutes. You know, and I think that duration is overrated.
Absolutely.
And I've read somewhere like there's people like in countries where they do this like as part of their culture.
Yeah.
Like, they're like, 15 minutes? What are you talking about? You know, they're like, I give it like
2 hours.
2, 3. No, they're
No,
like
2-3 minutes.
2-3 minutes.
Right. Yeah.
I'm straight. Like
They call it
you know?
supersizing in America. You
Right,
supersize
yeah.
meditation.
Right.
That's
yeah.
hilarious.
So,
Super
truly.
size me.
so I mean, longer durations are nice every now and then, but I think that's like like for a reason. Like
Yes.
maybe you've got something you need to go somewhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But mine have been pretty like little bit of stretching, maybe a little bit of yoga. Like I used to do like maybe 15 minutes yoga and like just minutes of meditation afterwards, you know? And that was good. But like since I hurt my back, I haven't been as much on yoga. I want to get back into that. But just a couple like simple stretches and like a few minutes of breathing. And I mean that's as much as I do. And I'm pretty good with that.
Yeah. The longer stretches are good for me because what it helps me do is it's that practice of trying to come back to the present moment. Because if you do it for 15, 20 minutes, there's so many times where you go back into that virtual reality of the mind, right? And then you sort of have to train to sort of gently come back to the moment. So when you're doing it for 15, 20 minutes, you have that practice of coming back. And for a guy like me who experiences anxiety and I've gone through like panic attacks and stuff, like I've had to keep coming back because of these fits of anxiety, these fits of whatever's going on the inside that's really uncomfortable and I want to leave.
Yeah.
That's important.
Yeah.
That's really important to the whole practice.
It blew my mind today, too, since we're on the subject. And I had a couple more questions for Clyde, but it did blow my mind today because it was so much like loving presence. And sometimes those words just sound sort of like hooty, like, oh, God, come on, man. But then you realize, like, there's some amazing meditation teachers that just really teach you to come back to this moment of presence where it's fucking all right. It's okay. This is not a big deal. And it's funny because I trip myself up. I know it intellectually at times. I want to go back to that moment and it's not okay, which is still okay. But I'm just like, oh my God, it's not okay. And then I'm not okay and all that. But it was really cool. They mentioned a lot of Tara Brock, which she's a great local, she's in the DMV area right next to us here. And she's an amazing meditation teacher.
Yep.
You know, you guys should check her out at
We gotta
tarabrock.com.
get her on
I'll
the
plug
show.
her without her even knowing, man. She's so good. And we all used to go there
Yeah.
to see her and to meditate with her, actually. All
And she's
four
got
of us.
podcasts too.
Yeah.
They're
Yes.
amazing.
Yeah.
She should come here and teach us. Tell us.
Hopefully
what we're
one
doing wrong.
day
Yeah, we're going to bring
we'll
her.
reach out. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the biggest thing that sustained you, Clyde, in recovery? The one thing you cannot do without.
You know, it's a funny question, right? Like, if you had asked me in my first 10 years, I would have said God. You know, and if you had asked me like from 10 to 20, I would have said just keeping coming back, even if it doesn't make sense, right? Just like keep doing it, even if it doesn't make sense. And then I would have probably kind of like come back to God, but I wouldn't have used the word God. You know, I would say something like divine providence or something like that. But what I'm going to say today is connectedness. That's it. That's it. And I think that covers those first three, right? I mean, the only thing I could say more than that is everything. Like, everything has been most important, or you know what I mean? Like, just like everything. But it's connectedness, and it's, if you can, I believe you can be selective, and you can be unwise in how you choose and feel connected. And even if you've been unwise, even if you've been wrong, if you still feel connected, that will still work. You know what I mean? Like, if you're with the bad kids in the program, but you feel connected, that can still work. You know what I mean? Like, but ultimately, that's been the thing. And, you know, in times when I have suffered, it's been from lack of connection. You know what I mean? And I could put a name on it, like money, you know, or I could put a name on it like girlfriend or job or people. People suck, you know? But really, it's this lack of connection. And it's not even, and like, you know me, how many people do I know? How many, there are probably like 700 numbers in my phone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And literally, of people, and I could call to just say hi and spend 10 minutes, and I would feel.
I don't know how you got away with being the only Clyde for 35 fucking years in Northern Virginia.
I'm not the only, but I'm not the only one.
No, I know. But really, you are the only one.
Yeah, you're the only one I know. I've never met another Clyde here.
My dad's Clyde.
Oh.
But he's not here anymore.
Yeah.
He's in New Hampshire.
Anyway, I'm sorry, I didn't want to cut you off.
There was another Clyde in high school, too. He tried to fight me for stealing his name.
Clyde versus Clyde.
Clyde v. Clyde.
He's like trying to steal my name.
Wasn't that in Mad Magazine, Spy versus Spy? It's just Clyde versus Clyde.
That's hilarious.
So would you say that because a lot of the times people talk about the spiritual malady in recovery. So do you think that that's sort of what that's alluding to, is unconnected? Being unconnected is sort of that spiritual malady?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. And primarily it's disconnected from ourself, from our true self. Because something I believe, I think we all feel like when we get here, like people gave up on us or whatever. But I really, in reflecting on my own experience, I gave up on myself before anyone gave up on me.
Sure. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so in that way, I became disconnected from myself. You know, and I became disconnected from myself from a fear of not fitting in. And I didn't relate to that for the longest time. Like, you hear so many people feel, I didn't feel comfortable in my own skin, or like I never felt like I was an odd duck. Nobody, you know.
I definitely felt like that, yeah.
Right. But I was like...
Thanksgiving duck.
Right. But see, and
Asian
are any of you guys the only children?
No.
No, none of us
See,
are.
I was an only child, right? So I didn't have any brothers and sisters. So my socialization all came at school. And at school, I was terrified from day one. But by the time I hit like the second grade, I learned how to be cool in school. And by the sixth grade, I was president of my elementary school. And then I started doing drugs the next year, and all the bets were off. You know,
Immediately threw it away.
President?
Yeah.
Tore it all down, town drunk.
Right.
President of Town Drunk instant.
1 year.
One of my high
President
school
to
friends'
City Hall
little
drunk.
brother called me Otis, like from the Andy Griffith show, The Town Drunk.
Yeah.
Otis. Hey, Otis.
Yeah.
Fucking kid.
King to jester, just right down.
Exactly. It
Right
was
down the
terrible.
pipeline.
God, it was so painful.
So, but you're saying you ended up relating to that at some point, or no?
Yeah, I relate to it now because it's so clear to me that this lack of connection or fear of
right,
because that's the thing. It's like it's
fear
erroneous.
trophy.
Like I could suffer today for feeling not connected.
Absolutely, yeah.
But it's false information that I've made up and that I'm believing.
Yeah.
That I'm disconnected or that I'm afraid of.
Right.
Because I mean, I could call any of you guys.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm like, hey Chris, man, drop the wisdom on me. I need it. You know, like I'd just be like, hey Chris, what's up? What are you doing? And you hanging out, like this and that, and I would feel better
And
at
then
the end
it
of
comes.
that conversation.
Yeah, and you know it'll come. Yeah, yeah.
It's true.
God, I had a bunch of more
Pack
questions
animals.
to Clyde in here, but
Bring it on.
well, I mean, I think there's so many of them that he's answered, but this one I don't think Clyde you answered. What's the biggest defect that you feel like you? I hate to make it sound like you need to work on, but you know what I mean. What's the thing that keeps coming up that's eating your lunch?
Or is it a new defect that somehow you
A new
came up?
defect? Sorry.
Nudie.
I don't know why.
New defects
Nudie fix.
Anyway, sorry. Continue.
that like sort of came up out of nowhere that you had never had before.
Jeez.
I love these pauses that we're taking in this. I think they're so special.
Dead air. It's always
I
good
love 'em.
listening for the dead air. You know, I've had time with a bunch of them. Like, I think the one that makes me the most uncomfortable. I don't know what do you call it if you're. I guess it's self-seeking. Really, I mean, that's what makes me most uncomfortable today. And it's embarrassing to admit that mostly I experience it most acutely in traffic and then also at work. And it's not, it's like, it's just the same old, like, don't you know who I am? Don't you know how important I am? Don't you know how brilliant I am? Like, and it's not, I don't typically run people off the road or play backbitey office politics to like get over or like prove somebody else's whatever. It's just that like that's how I feel the acid rising. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like this doesn't feel good. Like I'm uncomfortable type thing. You know what I mean?
But it's interesting you called it self-seeking. Mm-hmm. Self-seeking in traffic. I don't see the relation.
Elevating myself at someone else's expense, right? Like, and it's like, you know, and it's this judgment of everyone else being deficient.
Right.
Everyone else is a crappy driver. Everyone else is on their phone. Everyone else leaves too much room in front of them at the stoplight.
Right.
Everyone else is riding right beside me and not letting me change lanes like I want to.
Hey, Clyde, you and I have a great...
Are you talking about when I saw you in traffic?
Oh my gosh.
One time it was Sam.
going his normal and usual 30 miles an hour, and Clyde is behind me.
This guy!
And I'm behind him going my normal 30 miles over the speed limit.
Right.
You know?
Everyone else includes Sam. Yeah.
What's wrong with this guy? It's Sam.
That's my favorite
Did you wave at him?
That's my favorite part.
I think
You
I
did.
did. I
You
did
did.
wave at him, but Sam was just like
Oblivious.
Open mouth the whole night.
Yeah.
Listen to the PJ podcast.
I think I did one of these too.
He's
Once
like,
I did see him.
is that Route 50 up there? I think I see the sign.
I guess I better
Sam
get
is a
over 3 lanes.
notorious slow driver for our listeners.
Are you a big honker? Are you
yeah.
honking people a lot?
No, I did honk at somebody today, but
Yeah.
I'm not a big honker.
Yeah, I
I
remember.
honked at the guy who.
Did you honk with your son of a bitch? Like, did you honk with
Yeah.
words or? Oh no, Clyde.
It was like da 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 da.
Oh, really? You're one of those who are rapid.
Yeah.
See, I remember when someone cut me off, and I just did the whole lay on the horn and tailed them for like 3 miles.
Yeah.
They got off on the exit. I was like, I didn't even care. I didn't know where to be really. So I was like, I'm pissed you cut me off, but I'm not even.
that guy?
I had the time to take the exit with you and lay on the horn.
Do you know a guy on Braddock Road? There's a guy arrested on Braddock Road this month for pulling a gun on somebody in traffic.
Yeah.
And like at Clifton Road in Braddock, like bougie Fairfax County.
Yeah, bougie
Like,
Fairfax. I'd love to ask that guy what his biggest defect is.
Yeah. Well,
Carrying a gun in my car without a concealed carry permit.
this definitely is a bougie area, but very, like you said, self-seeking area too.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of self-important people.
Yes. Don't you know who I?
Don't
Don't
you
you
know
know who I think I am? That's
work
one of
on
my
the
favorite
hills.
lines
You
that
know who you
Clyde
think I am.
taught me. There was one time we were at a meeting and I was sitting next to Clyde, and this guy was sharing about his story. I think, like, you know, and he said something about having an ego or whatever. And Clyde looks at me. He goes, "Don't you know who I think I am?" It was the best line I heard
So true.
about the ego.
Yeah,
Who I think I am. Yeah. Man, we're so honored to have you, Clydeski. You're the
buddy,
man.
it's my pleasure. This is fun.
Yeah.
I love you guys. I love that you're doing
Love you
this.
too, man.
It's cool.
Yeah, we definitely, your name has come up, and then we definitely want you back on the show with our girl.
Yes.
Our girl.
Oh yeah.
That would be really cool because I think that,
Your wife?
Love of my life.
yeah,
Thank you
love
for the
your life.
clarification.
Yeah, your wife. Clyde's wife. We're talking about Clyde's wife.
Yeah, Denise.
Denise.
I think it's so cool. It'd
Shout
be
out
another,
Denise.
so yeah, shout out to Denise for
Yeah,
sure.
definitely.
We love Denise.
Yeah.
Power couple. Gotta come back.
It'll be cool to talk about recovery from that point of view as well. I don't know. Was there anything else that you had on your mind that you wanted to share real quick before we end it? Is there anything, any shout outs you want to give or anything on your mind that you want to
Shout out.
shout out?
Shout it
We
out.
got a shout out tonight.
No, we did.
Who did we shout out?
I forgot. I did one, but no, we didn't.
I wanted to shout out antipsychotics earlier.
Antipsychotics, yeah.
Zyprexa, shout out.
Yeah.
Shout out to
It works.
Zyprex.
They,
It worked.
They kept me in place. They kept me in place long enough to realize that I had a problem. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. There's too many to shout out.
I know. Any thoughts?
But anybody can recover. That's what I believe in, and I think it's a really important time for that message to get out, and the hope. You know, I hope that this program can give people hope, because I know there's a lot of people out there with this opioid epidemic. Didn't exist when I was a kid. I would be dead if it did. There's no doubt in my mind. Yeah. There's no doubt in my mind that I would not have made it, because
Right there.
I was an advanced student when the technology was a little less dangerous than it is today.
Right. Me too.
You know, and I'm lucky I made it as it is.
Yep.
You know, but anybody can do this, and it doesn't matter what happened to you. It doesn't even matter what you did to anybody else. You can get off the dope. You can put down the bottle. You can change your life and make a difference in somebody else's life. And I think one of the things that I know about you guys is that you take that seriously, and that recovery is about helping somebody else too. And, you know, I don't know. There may be people that end up in recovery and they don't end up ever helping anybody. I don't know any of those people. I don't know them. I mean, I'm not saying they don't exist. I just don't know them.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But to me, that's the best part of life for me today is helping somebody else get recovery.
Cool.
Really is, and that hasn't changed in 35 years.
Wow.
Hell yeah.
Man.
I don't get sick of it.
No, you don't. He's a real deal.
Yeah.
We love you, man.
Love you,
Yeah.
brother.
Thanks
yeah.
for coming on.
Thanks for
for
being on the
having me.
show.
Awesome. Just great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to sign us out? Whatever you do with it.
Yeah, hi. Please buckle up your seatbelts, strap in, head back against your chair.
Address?
Sober Pod launching off.